So off we go. Zach is getting that treadmill starting to move. What's going to be interesting is to see what pace he sets out at, whether he's going to be aggressive early on or whether he's going to relax and ease into the run.
You know, he has an efficient gait. You have to be efficient to run that far, that fast. And anybody that's tried to run a 7:01 pace realizes that's not an easy thing to do. And he can hold that for a complete day.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Which is amazing. It's also a little bit terrifying.
I've moved at that pace, but I'm not necessarily powered by my human feet here. He's quite an athlete and truly a world-class elite athlete.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I like to use as an example when somebody, like when he set the 11:19 on the track, and if somebody's a non-runner or maybe they're relatively new to running and they sort of say, oh, 11 hours, 19 minutes. Yeah, that's a long time. And actually you explain to them, well, actually, no, it's not a long time for 100 miles. It's like running 4 marathons back to back, all considerably under 3-hour pace. And then they go, yeah, okay, that is really quick. So this is I think that's a great leveler for something like this, is when you say that he's going to be on the treadmill and he's going to be running 4 marathons all under sub 3-hour pace to do the 100 miles in 12 hours. So
now, and I agree with you. And as we're going to have some great views, as we can see now, and at least in our viewpoint, we can see his running gait from the front and from the side. And what will be interesting, especially for the biomechanists out there, the people that look at running efficiency, to notice how his gait stays consistent, or does it change? As you look right now, his head, his shoulders, his hips, his feet are landing right underneath him exactly as it's prescribed and people aim to. And I suspect that we'll see 25 miles look like 50 miles, look like 75 miles. I think Zach is going to have that exact gait throughout this entire day.
Well, he certainly will be aiming for that. And, you know, his sponsor, Altra, they have 0 drop shoes, and people who are interested in running movement will have lots to say about the choice of shoe. And, you know, for some people, 0 drop just doesn't work. But for Zach, it's really, really efficient. As you say, he has that tripod landing. And that is something that he will be looking to maintain throughout the whole 100 miles. And in terms of the head, I've worked with a running specialist in the UK called Shane Benzie, who looks at running technique and running form. And the simple things about the head is that every inch that it moves forward or leans forward, it weighs heavier and heavier. So you really need to keep your head and your eyes forward as much as possible. Now, that is something that Zach will be able to do on the treadmill, because he's basically just got to let the treadmill move underneath him and him move along with it. So it will be interesting to see after this is finished how he feels with what a treadmill is like for 100 miles or running on a track is like for 100 miles, and which was the more preferable.
Right. Well, you just hit into my zone of my profession prior to changing it. I was a chiropractor for 22 years. And in fact, they say the head at, 12 to 13 pounds, for every inch that it's out in front, if your head is 3 inches in front, you're carrying 30 pounds worth of work. And you can imagine if you're carrying something, if you have a bowling ball, it's much easier to keep it close than out in front. You really fatigue those muscles. Yep. So when the head goes forward, the shoulders round forward, it makes it tougher to breathe. So running gait is just really important for efficiency. As we watch Zach here, he's making it look easy, Ian. Sitting here in my cushioned chair, I think, yeah, I could probably do that. But do you remember, do they have over in the UK that the Jetsons, when they had that treadmill, and and he was shot off the back. I think
Shot off the back.
That's what would happen to me on that treadmill at that speed right now.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that that doesn't happen to Zach. He's 5 minutes in, so I'm glad that he's looking good at the moment, because he's got 11 hours and 55 minutes ish to go. So as long as he can keep looking good, that's going to be really important. I wonder what's going through his head at the moment. Because he sort of said that he's going to break the distance down into manageable chunks and set himself intermediate goals, and those goals will change. And it could be just simply that if he puts a faster piece of music on, maybe he will adjust his pace to the piece of music, but he will also visualize what's going on in his own mind. So he will visualize mile 5, mile 10, maybe visualize what he's going to feel like at mile 30. And anybody who runs, I think that's one of the things that you always do. You always try to visualize yourself looking good, feeling good. The mental game, the mantras. So it will be interesting to see how Zach manages that and how he manages his mind, because as we know, I mean, he needs his body to perform, but also his mind is going to be absolutely critical in something where he has no distraction, really.
You know, and I think interesting, and I think you should invite him on to Talk Ultra podcast and talk to him about this afterwards, because it'd be interesting at what he goes through and what he uses and his creativity to create these changes. I think you're right. I think he might listen to a complete album that he likes that brings him to a happy spot that he may reward himself with. At mile 25, he gets to listen to whatever it is that he loves. Maybe he's going to watch a movie in the middle of it. There's no rules against that. Nope. So it will be interesting to think, how many different ways can you take a very sterile, benign type environment and bring in so many different things that you might be surprised just how quick those 12 hours can go.
Yeah. And in the build up to this, he's been doing 120-mile training weeks, mostly aerobic threshold training, but he has done some lactic threshold work as well to stress himself. And as I said, his longest run on a treadmill has been 30 miles. So yes, 120-mile weeks are huge. 30 miles on a treadmill is huge, but that now what he's doing is just an unknown. It's a complete unknown, and that'll be what is driving him. And this will be how he needs this strategy to visualize how the day will unfold. And what will be interesting is because we're going to get to see this live, is we're going to see the high points and the low points, and maybe there won't be too many low points, but one has to assume that in something that is this physically challenging, there is going to be a patch where he doesn't feel good, and how he gets him out of that.
Anytime that you run 100 miles, you expect some low points. And so you kind of put that into your plan of the day. Well, I'm going to go through 2 to 3 patches that are just going to be very, very tough. But most of us that run 100 miles, we get a full day, literally both sides of the day. Zach's doing it on just one side of the day. So, yeah. So I attest this should be easier for him than it would be for someone like me.
Yeah, I think, you know, I always admire the top elite men and women and marvel at their ability. But I think, you know, genetically, they probably had good parents who gave them the right sort of genes that enables them to do what they're doing. And, you know, for you or I, if we were trying to run 100 miles in under 24 hours, it probably doesn't feel much different to what Zach will feel like running in 12 hours, because it's just ability and genetics that fill the gap and bridge the gap. So I think it will be interesting to see how Zach feels throughout this, and maybe, you know, we're going to have feeds coming in from around the world of people who are joining Zach virtually on treadmills and running their own little treadmill sessions alongside Zach. And it will be interesting to see as those feeds come in, how those people look in comparison to Zach. And particularly as the day goes on, if Zach's been on the treadmill for 9 hours and then we get a feed coming in for somebody who's been on for 9 minutes, but they don't look as good as Zach, then it puts Zach's effort into perspective.
It's great that you just said that, because I just got word from Leighton that we are going to have some virtual runners join us soon. We have Zoom technology behind this that allows guests to come in and actually ask Zach questions throughout the day. Yep. They'll get to join in, and some of these runners, the virtual runners, are going to get interviewed. And so it's going to be a dynamic day. It's just not watching somebody run on a treadmill. This is running entertainment, and at a time that we haven't had a lot of sports on broadcast, and we love sports as a people. I think this will fill a gap very nicely.
Absolutely. And what is interesting about what's happened, you know, in the last 2 to 3 months with the coronavirus and the impact that it's had on everybody, not just on the running world, but how virtual has been embraced as a way to socialize in a virtual world, still connect with the running community. But at the same time, you know, if you'd have said to me 10 years ago, you're going to watch a guy on a treadmill for 12 hours, and I would be saying, well, why would I want to watch a guy on a treadmill for 12 hours? But the thing is, there is something extremely addictive about watching somebody attempting to do something that 99.9% of the population cannot do. So for sure, I think people maybe will drift in and drift out during the day to sort of see, you know, oh, where's he at 3 hours? Where's he at 5 hours? Some people will sit there on the computer and watch the whole thing. And that's what's great about it.
And for good reason, because they have a lot of technology, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But in a few moments, we're going to hear from the charity. We have a charity involved with this, Fight for the Forgotten. And There's a great story behind that. And that's part of the beneficiary. You're able to, if you're enjoying this event, not only can you go out and visit some of these sponsors that have made it happen, but also donate to the charity, because there is a great story of a fighter himself that is fighting for a group that it needs to be represented. So I would certainly pay attention to that today. That's on a slot from 1 to 3 today. So we'll be moving through different guests and different hosts, because we don't have the same endurance as hosts as Zach on a treadmill, which is a sad statement. You know, if you really think about it, Ian, that we can only talk for 2 hours, but Zach can run for 12.
I think, Don, I think more importantly, nobody wants to watch you or I for 12 hours.
Well, I guess the truth hurts sometimes, Ian. The truth hurts.
Absolutely. I don't even want to watch myself for 12 hours. So why should anybody else? And as you said, we've got a whole great lineup of people today. You know, Jamil Curry is coming on following me. We've got Dean Canazes later, and as you say, the charity, and then Zach's wife Nicole with other people are going to close out the final couple of hours, which will be the crunch hours, the emotional hours, because obviously we'll begin to be able to realize an estimated time for Zach to complete the 100 miles and how much the record could be broken, and will it be broken? And these are all things that we don't know. We should never assume that a record is going to be broken today. We just hope that a record is going to be broken today.
We have 6-time Ironman champion Dave Scott coming on.
Dave Scott as well.
We have Courtney Dauwalter, who just this last year went out to UTMB and had a victory for America, which we're happy about over here, Ian.
Yep.
We have Sally McRae that will be visiting us, and anybody in the sport loves Sally because Sally loves people, and she's just dynamic and a lot of fun. and she'll bring energy when Zach needs some final push. So all the guests all the way through have something to contribute. We're going to learn throughout this day. This just isn't a day to watch Zach. It's a day to get some entertainment. I think that SFuels should send out a certificate of completion when we're done with this day. Here we're setting up on our screen a donation that you can screen a QR code right into your phone, and Fight for the Forgotten is the charity that we were just talking about, and it gives you a chance as you learn more about this charity to be empowered and motivated and willing to help.
Yep, and I think it should be on everybody's screen now, and there's a QR code, so you can use your phone, you can scan on it and then make a donation. And as Zach has said in the build up to this, is that yes, it's about him aiming to break a 100-mile record, but it's also about him raising money for Fight the Forgotten, which is great.
Well, I think we have joining us Kristen from Fight for the Forgotten. Is that you? Am I seeing you there? Can you see us?
Yep. Thanks, Don and Ian. I'm actually with SFuels, and close. But we do have that QR code up there. You can put your phone up to it and take a snapshot of that, and that will lead you right to that Fight for Forgotten's donation page. So you can go right onto there and make that donation. Like I think Dawn had mentioned, they will be coming on today from 1 to 3 to talk a little bit more about that charity. So you guys will have a little bit more information on that then. And so that'll be a good time to make sure you're tuned in for that and get that going. So we are going to have some prize winners today. That's what we're announcing now. First up's going to be the SFuels prize pack. So anybody that sees your name on that screen, you can go ahead and check your social media. There will be information there on how to collect that prize. And then also the next prize is going to be the Coros pod. And that's going to be the same thing. Check your social media, and then you will be able to figure out how to get that prize sent to you. For the Nordic Track, we just ask that you go check out their Instagram page. It's going to have all the information on how to get entered to win one of those, because they are going to be giving away one of those today.
Do you think maybe they'll send the one with 100 miles on it that's been broke in a little bit? That would be a real prize, to have a world record set treadmill inside of your place. Go talk to them about that and see if you can swing that deal.
That would be pretty great. Although I don't know that they're going to give us that one. Zach may be a little bit attached to that one after this, you know.
I understand. So can you talk a little bit about the fueling today that Zach will be on? Because you've got to do this with fluids, you've got to do it with determination, but you also need fuel along the way. What is his fuel of choice, and why is he choosing it?
Well, I'm not 100% on all of his fueling for today. I do know that when I spoke with him yesterday, he has mentioned that he will be using the SFuels product for his hydration for it. And then I know that we can actually ask him specific questions too. Oh. So throughout the day, if somebody wants to reach out to him and ask him a specific question on his nutrition, I know he's more than happy to answer that information for us too.
Well, that's going to be fun and dynamic. And
yes.
So I look forward to, I come back on at 1 to 3, but I have a feeling I'm going to be here from now until 1, because I like the way this is going.
I feel like that's a good idea.
and I was going to mention prior to this, and Ian, I'll get your response on this as well. There's some cool technology that is being brought to us. Not only we get to see them and see a clock, but there's a graph that's going to be coming on to show what the world record is and where Zach's time is, so we can watch in real time and have a reference point, kind of a virtual race, if you will, within this race. And that makes this more dynamic and enjoyable to watch.
Right. I knew we do have one athlete to spotlight this hour, Alan Bryson. He was planning to, hi Alan. He was planning to do the challenge championship at the end of May, and I believe that has now been canceled or postponed. So he's going to join us today instead. He has competed in several long distance running events and Ironman events, and he's putting in some miles today on his treadmill too.
And Alan's looking nice and relaxed and smiling. So
he does look pretty
that's
relaxed.
good. Yeah. What's interesting is seeing on my split screen here is Alan running, and next to him I've got Zach running, and the running styles are completely different. Zach is already looking, really motivated and focused on his pace, and
he is. He looks pretty intent on getting that record on time.
It does, but it's sort of slightly intimidating to see somebody that focused at 20 minutes into a 12-hour day. So it's quite frightening to see how, and it's good to see as well how the efficiency of Zach and how the dedication and the mind is going to be the driving force to get him to his goals today.
Right.
Yeah, Kristen and Ian, it really, the runners that we're watching, I'm on gallery view, and I don't know if people can do that at home, but I'm seeing a bunch of people riding and running. Mm-hmm. And as we look, all of these people are great athletes. I can see that they are. They're in great shape. And I know if the camera was on me for a short time, my pace would increase a little bit while that camera was on. And we can really see that Zach is not human. Look how fast he's going. And these guys are moving fast already. So it really gives somebody sitting at home a chance to see what is it that Zach is going to accomplish today.
Yeah. I think in one of the pre-chats before this is Zach was going to sort of start slightly slower than his target pace and then move up to around about 640 pace per mile. And if he was running at 640s, then that's going to give him around about 11 hours and 10 minutes for the 100 miles. So it will be interesting to see how that strategy changes throughout the day.
Right.
Oh, we have Zach has actually stopped for just a second. He's stepping off, which is pretty early, 21 minutes into it. You wonder maybe, what adjustments he's making and if this was planned or not.
I'm imagining that maybe this early, he's probably started pretty well hydrated, and he might just need he might just need a call of nature. So that is one thing.
You notice she's changing treadmills.
Oh, really?
And I wonder if that's a strategy. We talked about different things he might put into place to help keep it fresh. He might bounce from one to the other.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought that is not very time efficient because obviously he has to bring one treadmill to a stop and then restart the other treadmill. So yeah, I mean, he's not had a toilet break, so he has just moved from one treadmill to the other. So it would be interesting to know what's happened there. I'm guessing that it was planned.
Here's what I'm thinking. Can a treadmill withstand that pace for that long? Maybe he has to move from one to the other to keep. Have they ever been tested with this kind of intensity?
Yeah, they have.
Oh, okay.
And the thing is that for sure a Nordic Track treadmill can stand 12 hours at 630 pace or 640 pace for no problem. It would be interesting to try and find out what's happened there, why Zach has changed. And as you say, Don, it might be that that's part of his strategy, part of his plan. But I would have thought at 20 minutes in, 22 minutes in for him to do that seems early. Even I can go for 22 minutes on a treadmill without needing to change. So it will be interesting to find out.
We'll get a chance to ask him because there's times that things can break in. So if you're on your hosting period and get a chance to talk to him, remember to ask him that because I would be interested in learning.
Absolutely, and I'm guessing Zach is learning as well. He looks as though he's going quicker at the moment. So I actually wonder whether he has the two treadmills set at two different paces so that he can press a button and it automatically goes up to a speed. So maybe the treadmill he started on was on like 7-minute mile pace, and then the treadmill he's now on is on 640 pace. I mean, the speed can be adjusted quite easily while you're running, but maybe that's a strategy that he's using. Maybe they're pre-programmed. I don't know.
Well, I think trying to keep things fresh and keeping your mind straight perhaps that's just it. This is my fast. I'm doing a fast interval. I do 20 minutes of getting warmed up, and I'm going to come over and do 2 hours or hour of fast work. So it'll be interesting for us to watch.
Yeah. And if that side view that we've got of him now is his cadence certainly looks as though it's picked up, and he looks to be moving faster. It would be nice, and I'm sure that this is going to happen throughout the day, that maybe we get pace as it's happening. You know,
well, we have it. If you're on a gallery view, what I'm watching here is lap 1, lap 2. I'm seeing some things. I needed it bigger on my screen, and I'll make it bigger soon enough, but it looks like we have that data in real time.
Okay, I have a gallery view at the top, but I don't have that screen at the moment. So it'll be I'm getting cyclists coming in, I'm getting different runners coming in. So what's great is the fact that not only is Zach looking to set his own goal, but he's also inspiring other people around the world to get motivated to join him virtually, whether it's on a bike or a treadmill, which is great.
Ian, you know what it tells me? I think Zach's going faster than some of our cyclists.
I think he is, actually. That's a distinct possibility, without a doubt. And it's interesting how he's moving his arms. He's really driving himself forward. You know, if you think about lots of ultra runners, they try to minimize wasted effort. They think that moving their arms or bringing their knees up or lifting their legs or they're lifting their feet too high off the ground is wasted energy. But Zach is doing none of that. He's moving his shoulders. He's driving himself forward. If you see his heel kick at the back, his heels are still coming up quite high. He's getting himself off the ground. I mean, there's no sort of like lazy sort of just jogging along pace. He's already going at a pace that is very driven. And just watching it as we're sort of getting close to the 30-minute mark now, it's impressive to see, because he's got to keep this going.
Yeah, and we know about the ultra shuffle, we call it. It's just kind of moving along, and we learn to try to minimize the amount of effort to move along these miles, especially as you get deep into the miles. You get very tired, and the only way to travel at that speed like he's doing is you need that kick. You need to bring the knee up. You need to get that heel back. You just can't shuffle fast. You have to run like a runner if you want to run fast. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting when you consider his track record, and how in his own mind, how it feels different, because on the track, he's obviously, he's going round in circles. And I know that every so often they change the direction so that they don't get a repetitive strain injury. But on the treadmill, he doesn't have to worry about that. But the downside is there is no distraction. He's just looking at a wall, or he's just looking at the Nordic Track does have a screen, and I don't know whether Zach has actually got anything on his screen to distract him to watch. That will be interesting to find out as the day progresses, because the other thing that you can do on a lot of these treadmills now is you can have a virtual race which you participate in, which is a great motivational tool. Is you can bring up something like Boston Marathon and then run your own Boston Marathon on your treadmill. I would doubt that Zach is doing that, but maybe he has got some information or some distractions going on the screen that help him throughout the day. Yeah, that's a great feature of this treadmill. It's just not your YMCA treadmill. There's a lot of engineering into that screen and different programs, and the iFit program of working out with somebody. He might be running Boston right now, as you say. We don't know. And some of the things on a track is you have other participants on the track, and you have to go around them. He doesn't have to go around anybody here. So we're getting a progress update coming up on the screen now, which I'm guessing you can see.
So 3 miles, 23:43.
I've run a 23:43 mile before. Oh, he's done 3 miles. Oh,
yeah, he's going a little bit quicker than that.
okay.
So that's interesting. And what we do is we get to see the line where the current record is 12:32, set by Dave Proctor in 2019. And then we've got Zach's 11:19 underneath it, which he set on the track. And then we're going to get a progress line of Zach while the day is going on. So 23:43, that's a relatively sedate start for Zach.
And now we've got, it's nice to see here, 147 beats per minute is where he's running his heart rate efficiency. I imagine he knows exactly where that is. It might be some of the data that's coming up on his screen. Whether he's running by pace or is he running by heart rate, we don't know. Another good question. We don't want to pull him off the treadmill to get all these things, but it sure would be nice to know what measures he's using. Or does he know his body so well that one of the two are exactly the same? He knows what the heart rate is for what pace.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be overly worried about heart rate. I think the one thing that he will experience being in the home is the fact that the 6 days in the dome had a temperature control. So the actual ambient temperature was perfect for running a long way. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that I'm assuming Zach will not be able to do in his home is regulate that temperature. So the one thing that could happen is that if he doesn't have good airflow or good ventilation in the room, is that he will get hotter, which will cause his heart rate to increase.
That's a great point, Ian. And right behind, I think what we're looking at right behind him, it's not only a fan, but it's an air conditioner. I think that Nicole told us.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I'm also getting a view of Nicole on the treadmill that Zach originally started on. Now, I don't know what she's doing, but I'm wondering whether there was a problem with the treadmill, and that's why he's shifted over so early. Because I would say I'm a little bit surprised to see that his pace early on is 7 minutes 54 per mile. I would have thought that he would have at least started at 7:30 pace,
right?
And then, because that's the world record pace, and then would have moved quicker for blocks of time. So 7:54 3 mile for the first 3 miles is slower than I expected, but maybe that is part of his strategy, is to just ease into the day, and then he's gonna lift the time up. So that's one of the dynamics that's going to be interesting to follow, is what that strategy is.
Well, at his world record at 11:19, the pace was 7:01. So we know he has leg turnover. We know that as we compare that, 7:54 is somewhat pedestrian to a 7:01 pace. And so we know that he can turn it up and really move. So I imagine he's not too worried, as 3 miles is just early for a 100-mile event. You never worry about the first few.
No, absolutely not. But I think one of the things that works with something like this, when you're aiming for specific times, is nobody who's trying to go for a world record wants to get too far behind, because that's time that you've got to catch up. And also, I think psychologically, you want to be on top of the game. But as you say, it's still way too early. I mean, we've not even started the day. So I think in 3 hours, 4 hours, the times and the distance we see at that point were into a third of the day. That will give us much more information, and give Zach more information, and he'll be able to know what he needs to do, and if he can ease back or whether he needs to speed up. But that's very easy to say sitting in a chair. It's very different being on the treadmill and having to keep this pace going.
Yeah, we see Nicole now on the trainer that he was on, or on that treadmill. So she's probably doing a little evaluation herself, and going to give some feedback to Zach to let him know whether switch back or to use that strategy that we were talking about of running different paces or lengths of time to keep things fresh and different.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, Nicole in her own right is a quality runner. So it will be interesting to see how her input during the day is impacting on Zach's mindset and how she can push him to maybe achieve more, or at times advise him to go less. This is one of the interesting dynamics. I mean, when you're doing 100 miles on the track, every 400 meters, you can still get feedback, but it's not the same as being on a treadmill when literally you can have somebody sitting or standing next to you all the time. And for some people, that actually could be a distraction rather than a help. So it will be interesting to see how that dynamic changes for Zach during the day. And I would imagine there's going to be points where maybe we can ask Zach questions, but he won't want questions because it's just the wrong time of day for him. He might be going through a period where he's trying to set a certain pace and he won't want a distraction from you or I or whoever it may be saying, "Hey, Zach, how's it going?" And I know personally is that if you get a little bit in the zone, you're in the zone. So yeah.
Well, I commit to asking only very easy questions. I mean, he can just nod his head with the questions I'll ask you, so we won't ask too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get all the information that we need, and I know that that Tommy is going to be joining us any minute. I've seen that his face is appeared on one of my screens, so I'm sure that he will be brought into us at any minute. And of course, Tommy is here. He is. Hey, Tommy, how are you?
Hey, give me just a sec, man.
He's still setting up his screen.
Yeah, I'm still setting it up. Just give me 1 sec, man. Thank you.
Hey, well, I'll be exiting shortly because then it becomes your 2-hour block, Ian. I really enjoyed spending time with you this morning and getting this thing rolling.
Yeah, no, it's been excellent. And thank you for bringing us in and starting the day. I know that you're going to be back later at 1 o'clock. I think it's probably going to be quite a long day for all of us. I'm at a real disadvantage being in Europe because Zach is still going to be going well into my night, whereas it's your daytime. So I'm hoping that I can last as long as Zach and still be around at midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, if you dial out before he does, I will be very disappointed, Ian.
I know that would be really bad, wouldn't it? That I didn't have the endurance.
I will give you a poor star rating on your iTunes account for your podcast, Ultra Talk.
Yeah, I'll end up on a teacher's report for not having enough dedication to the craft.
Well, we lost Tommy, so I'm just gonna hang out with you until he comes back.
I think Tommy was just trying to work out how to bring in. I mean, what is great is I think it's only in this last 5 months that I've witnessed the growth of Zoom and how all these feeds from all over the world can be brought in on one feed. And I must say that whoever's handling our admin and bringing all these feeds in together is doing an incredible job, because it does make watching something that could be really quite dull very exciting. I've got 2 screens with Zach running. I've got you on one screen. I've got information about the pace and the time that we're at. And then every now and again, we can see different people coming in. So the technology really makes this something quite special.
It does. And we've all become a bit more used to or accustomed to joining in groups, and the learning curve is pretty quick. And our acceptance as a society of business meetings or school meetings or just family meetings have all come together with these Zoom products. And there's other ones out there that are good, but this one has served our community well in the big backyard that was done, or the virtual runs. That it's been quite entertaining and engaging.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I'm glad that I wasn't hosting the Quarantine Backyard Ultra, because that went on for days.
Yeah, I got the name wrong. You're right. It was the quarantine, and but it provided a lot of miles, a lot of virtual miles for folks to watch and to enjoy, and some real elite athletes that joined in. I mean, Mike Wardian, who'll be with us today, was out there doing it, and same with Sally McRae that's on there. Courtney was on there. I mean, the names that you're seeing listed on the interviews today or the discussions today are people that participated in that. These are real active runners that are part of this community. Absolutely.
We've still not got Tommy back, so I'm sure that he'll work his technology out and join us at some point. So Don, you're on from 1 till 3.
Right.
Then do you come back on later in the day?
No, unless I come in as a virtual runner. You can't get rid of me. I'm coming back.
I'm coming back.
No,
I'm coming back.
Yeah, I come in at 1 to 3, and I get to talk about the charity and kind of join in just to be a third wheel, really. And Zach wanted a runner's perspective in case there's something that needs to be commented on or looked at. I think if he has a grimace on his face, I'm supposed to interpret whether that's a cramp or he needs a bathroom break. I'm supposed to have the magical powers of an experienced runner to interpret the grimace.
Yeah. Well, he's going through 41 minutes at the moment, and Nicole is still on the treadmill next to him. So that would suggest that it was a decision of Zach to move from one treadmill to the other for some reason. So it will be interesting to find out later in the day why he did that. It'll also be interesting to find out why Nicole is running at this current moment. Maybe it was a pre-plan that it would be a good motivator early on to just have somebody running next to him to be able to talk to him, just keep him motivated. And Zach is reaching for a drink now. I think that's the first time I've seen him drink. So he's going to need to keep on top of his hydration. And as we said, that in the pre-event chat, he was aiming for 40 grams of carbohydrate per hour. And he's probably taking that in as part of that drink, I would imagine.
Tommy, you're right, and appreciate that point, because these are the things that we want to be able to watch and see and regulate and see if his cadence picks up on his fueling and what happens. There's a lot to watch, even on a treadmill. As Tommy Rivers comes up, just some intro for some folks that are listening that might not know. Tommy, as an ultra runner and marathon, he's placed 16th place at running a 2:18 at the 2017 Boston Marathon, which is really a fast pace. I mean, that's world class 2:18.
Yep, 2:18, super quick. And of course, Tommy is a run coach as well. So it's going to be interesting for him to be able to give some real specific information to the viewers about what will be going through Zach's mind in terms of his pacing strategy, how his pace will affect his nutrition, what sort of hydration he's going to need, and also he'll be able to talk about Zach's training and why Zach did 120-mile weeks, why he did aerobic threshold training, and how you break up the training to run 100 miles at the speed that Zach is doing, because as we said earlier, there's so few people that can do this.
Right, and he has a PhD in physical therapy too, so he'll bring in some expertise. It'll be nice to have him talk about gait and talk about mechanics, and so it'll be a great conversation. Hey, joining us, we have a bunch of virtual athletes. Well, they're actual real athletes virtually, yeah. and you can see them and their determination on their face, and they're joining the charity. They're joining our group, and we appreciate them coming on. And we see down below, looks like Tommy's revisiting us.
Hey, Tommy, how are you? Are you there? He's not into our feed yet. I can see Alan Bryson still running on his treadmill. He's looking relaxed, and I think we're about to get some more information coming in from Christina. Yes. Hey, Christina, you're back?
You guys are still rocking it. I mean, you're 45 minutes in now.
I know. I almost feel as though I'm going for a world record.
The world record on how long you can announce on a show.
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
Ian does a 3-hour podcast. This is easy. This is easy for him.
This is just a normal day. Then it's an easy day.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, my podcasts do tend to be a little bit long. 3 or 4 hours is normal, but it's not recorded in one go. It's made up of multiple interviews. So this is like a one-stop podcast for me. So this is interesting to be going for 2 hours constantly. Hey, Tommy, you're sideways.
Am I sideways? Oh,
Yeah.
dang. Let's see. How's this?
Oh, there we go. So Tommy's joining us.
So you're
Sort
gonna
of.
have to give me a second. I'm technically challenged.
Oh, this is the joys of live. You see, is
Yeah,
phones the wrong
exactly.
way around. But you're there now. We can see
There
you.
we go.
And
How's
you
that?
and you look very handsome. How are you doing?
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate it. Likewise.
Hey, Tommy, this is like the baton. I think once you come on, I get to exit here. And so good to see you. Enjoy the conversation. And thanks for the distraction. I really think that the sideways camera was all about keeping Zach's mind off the treadmill and entertaining us along the way. So well done, Tommy. And I'll see you guys at 1 o'clock when I come back.
Thanks,
Hey,
Don. Thank you for co-hosting.
You got
Take
it.
care, man.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
All right,
So-
we've got some more prizes to announce. We've got Purpose is going to be giving out a pair of the racing socks. And again, check your social media if you find your name up on that screen, and we will get out those products to you. And then we also have a couple more of the SFuels product packs. So again, check your social media that you're registered with, and they will make sure that those get out to you guys. And we are going to be bringing in an athlete. I believe she's out running trails. So there she is. Hi, Colleen.
Walking right now, so it's easier to talk.
Yeah. So Colleen is joining us from the woods in Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska.
Yeah, in Nebraska. It's still kind of cold here. That's where I'm at too. It's kind of cold here. So Colleen, do you want to tell a little bit about you're joining in with us today, and what are you planning to do for your 100-mile run with Zach?
I'm going to try to go off and on all day today because I'm way out of shape. So my 10 minutes to his hour. But it's exciting. I can't wait to see how far he goes on the treadmill.
Awesome. Well,
So, Colleen, is your plan to stay out there for 12 hours today?
Yeah, here and then home I have gravel roads at home. So I'll head home and do some gravel roads too. I did 10 miles on the gravel roads last night.
Okay, good for you.
preparation.
It was late at night. I love running at night. So